Hello, welcome to the webinar. Hi, my name is Peggy McKee. I am the CEO of Career Confidential, and I am happy to introduce Teddy Burris. He is a world-renowned social networking trainer and coach, and he's going to talk with us today about how to present yourself effectively on LinkedIn. Now, we're going to go through a pretty intense training session with Teddy. He's going to tell us a lot about this, and then at the end there'll be some additional training if you see that you need it to better present yourself on LinkedIn. And we will also have a live Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. So, Teddy, if you're here, I'm going to go ahead and present you to our audience and let you take over and start telling us about how to present ourselves effectively on LinkedIn.
And I'm here, Peggy. Thanks for letting me join you today.
Oh, you're most welcome. Take it away.
So, thanks everybody for joining us. There are 3 very deliberate steps that you need to use on LinkedIn, and what I'm going to talk with you today is step 1, which is clearly how to present yourself in the best possible way, how to present yourself effectively on LinkedIn. And if you're not using LinkedIn in the best possible way and presenting yourself, then you really can be or could be wasting your time. So that's what we're going to talk about. So, Peggy, do I want to get those slides in front of me. Do I hit something on?
Charity needs to move the slide forward for us.
Okay.
And what we should do here, Teddy, is let's go ahead and ask the folks about what's been happening with them in LinkedIn in the past 90 days. I think we have a poll question we could ask them, right?
Yeah. I think it would be well worth asking yourself, and during this webinar, what kind of value have you gotten out of LinkedIn to begin with? And so ask this question and respond to the poll question.
The question.
Go ahead, Peggy.
So the question is, in the last 90 days, how many recruiters and hiring managers have reached out to you in the last 3 months through LinkedIn? And you can go ahead and answer the poll over there on the right-hand side under the polls tab. You have 4 choices. You can say I've received no calls, 1 to 5, 6 to 15, or 16 or more, and click the vote button, and we'll give Teddy the audience's statistics. Again, this is anonymous. We don't see your individual answer, but we'll give him those statistics later on in the webinar. So, Teddy, why don't you go ahead and start off and tell us about the steps that we can take to an effective LinkedIn profile?
Good. So I really broke this conversation down in a very basic way into 11 steps, and at the end of it I'm going to give you some little tips that can help you as well. But if we need to start with step number 1, and I have an image on there that shows what I hope you perceive as a professional bio picture, and then the other image is maybe not so professional. Because it really starts with this. If you do not have a professional, and professional just means it needs to look good, a good-looking picture of you with some color behind you, a headshot, then you're missing out, because recruiters have been measured and found out that recruiters will ignore LinkedIn profiles that do not have a profile picture. So age discrimination and all that stuff has to go aside. You have to have a decent looking profile picture, and it also does this. It shows recruiters, hiring managers, and business owners that you are approachable, and you need to be approachable. So step 1, have a profile picture. Step 2 is what many people think is your title, and it is not your title. It is your professional billboard headline. And if you don't get bold and a little bit proud when you write your headline, and also if you don't use keywords that clearly define who you are in your industry, in the businesses you're looking for, the kind of work you're looking for, you need to use keywords, and it needs to be bold and a little bit proud, so that when recruiters and hiring managers see your profile, they clearly know who are you. And that really is the most, again, step 2, which is the second most important thing. Step 3 is I see this all the time. I've been doing LinkedIn and career coaching for years, and I see contact information on LinkedIn profiles. And what I'll find is I often have seen phone numbers that ring to their homes so your kids can answer the phone. And that's not really a productive or a effective way to engage or get connected. And the other thing I see too is an email address that is just a little bit left side of professional. Recruiters, hiring managers, business owners don't want to hire Fast Bunny at AOL.com. So really would encourage you to think through your contact information and use an email address that represents you well. And if you are going to use a phone number, make sure it's a phone number you can answer easily or you can get to the message easily. Contact information is critical. Be accessible. And that's step 3. So the other area of LinkedIn profiles I see on a regular basis is, or I don't see, here's what I don't see a summary statement. And your summary statement on your LinkedIn profile is, in some respects, your executive summary. It's all about who you are, what you do. And when I coach individuals, and I do a lot of LinkedIn coaching to help individuals in career transition and beyond build their LinkedIn profiles, I will help them spend time to focus on how do you write an effective summary statement that speaks to 3 areas: what you can do, what you have done, and here's what we often miss: what we enjoy. Because if you don't write a LinkedIn summary statement that says what you can do, talks about your accomplishments, and speaks to that you enjoy doing this, again, a recruiter's going to look at that. It's going to be bland. It's not going to be informative to him or her, and they're not going to get a good feeling who you are. And here's another piece of magic. Your summary statement has to include keywords, has to include the skill words that represent who you are and what you do. So when you're building your summary statement, just like your headline, think through that. The 5th area of your LinkedIn profile is, in fact, your previous experiences, your titles. And when you often I see experience titles or last job titles, and it's just that: business developer, accounts payable clerk, warehouse manager. And what we miss out on is that those experience titles are searchable. And when recruiters are searching your titles, are searching for you in general, they're using keywords. They're not just using titles. One of my clients the other day told me he got hired because he was a leadership professional, and he did not have the word, he did not use another phrase in his title area. He used the phrase leadership professional, and he got hired because that's what the recruiter was searching for. So when your experience section, your titles, use your keywords. You can hang that title off to the end, but it's important to put those keywords in there so that when recruiters are searching, they can find you. Furthermore, when you write, here's a really big point here. When you write your description about your last job, 2 things are critical. Number 1, you have to tell the story that is relevant to who you are today. And you also have to use keywords, the skill words, the words that represent you, the words that recruiters are looking for when they're trying to hire somebody like you. So you tell this story in this description area. Do not leave it blank. And worse than, and almost as bad as leaving it blank, is don't talk about all the other stuff that you did in your previous job that is not relevant to who you are today. This is not your resume. It's your online billboard, so it needs to have content and story about who you are. So make sure everything you put in here is relevant to who you are today. Critical. So I get this often where I'll ask people to have certifications, and yeah, I have certifications. I've had certifications for years, but I'll look on a LinkedIn profile when I'm coaching people on how to build their profile. I'll look on their profile, and all the certifications they'll have are about their old job and not about who they are today. Or they're about something they did 20 years ago and they don't do today. Use your certification area. Well, first of all, try to get and grow your skills. Professional development is important. And so as you're growing these professional skills, let us know that. Let recruiters and hiring managers know that you got certifications, no matter how grandiose they are or not. Anything you do to grow yourself professionally, list it on your LinkedIn profile. And furthermore, make sure you're listing the stuff that's relevant to what you are doing today. Don't talk about stuff you did in the past. Speak to the current relevancy. Another area that's searchable in LinkedIn, if you want to have an effective LinkedIn profile, you want to use where you have publications. If you've written articles, written papers, blog posts, any content that's on the internet accessible can be listed on your LinkedIn profile under publications. But here's what happens with people who have these publications. They'll list, did white paper XYZ, and then they don't talk about it. They don't use the description area of the publication to inform the viewer, which hopefully is the recruiter or the hiring manager or the business owner, when you wrote that white paper, what was it all about? And why is that publication relevant to who you are and what you do today? Lots of area, lots of content for you to use. Again, the words, the keywords, the skill words, and tell your story relevant to the kind of job you're looking to get. So LinkedIn skill words are the area that we're all getting endorsed in for lots of different stuff. I don't want to talk about the value of endorsements or the lack of the value of endorsements, whatever it is perceived. That's a whole other conversation. But what I do want to coach you on is this. Use the LinkedIn skill words. And the most important thing about skill words is two things. Number one, do not create a new one. You may be able to. You can type one in, hit enter, but don't. You may use a phrase, ACCT space REC for accounts receivable. Well, recruiters aren't looking for ACCT space REC. They're looking for account receivable. So don't abbreviate, and most definitely do not create a new skill word. Look for the skill words that exist and pick the ones that are most relevant to what you do, most relevant to your skills. And furthermore, number two, you can have 50 skill words. So think long, hard, and broad. Don't think too narrowly minded, and think of all the different skill words that are all about who you are and what you do. And by the way, those skill words also become your keywords that you use throughout your content when you write all the content that's on LinkedIn. So think broad, don't add a new one, and try to get as many as you can possibly get. Many businesses want to hire, well, maybe not many. Peggy might agree with me, it's not many, it's all businesses. They want to hire people, and people get involved in their community. Now, I'm not here to preach that you have to get involved in your community, but if you are involved in your community in a very giving, helpful way, local charities, local civic groups, the Habitat for Humanity, American Red Cross, whatever it is, if you're involved in volunteering activity, then share that with recruiters and hiring managers so that they can see that you're real life people. You want to help out others. And then, again, if you're not, think about doing that, because in networking, that's important to be involved in volunteer work. That's how you can also find opportunities. But if you are involved in charity, community activities, civics groups on a regular basis, then let the recruiters and the hiring managers know that. It's a great way to get to show people, again, that you're a real life person involved in your community. Here's, I think, my last step, which is my safety net for you. This is a work in progress. You're not going to get this done overnight. It takes time. It takes some thinking and a little bit of exploration for you to figure out exactly how do you write your story. So don't stress out by trying to get it all done at once. And here's another quick little tip. Don't do this writing in LinkedIn. Do it in Word. Do it in a text editor. Do it offline. Play with it. Then share it with somebody and see what you come up with. Because you may discover that when you write it and you play with the words and rewrite it and change it around, you may get, hopefully you will, excited about what you're writing. Because when you write your summary, when you write your headline, when you write your experience section, when you write down the content relevant to your volunteer work and your publications, all those areas on LinkedIn, when you write them, hopefully you'll get excited about who you are because you're presenting yourself in a better way. And then when you go to put it on LinkedIn, you'll feel really good about it. And that's important. And you can do that, but you've got to put some effort into it, and don't try to do it in one setting.
Hey, Teddy,
Yes.
this is a perfect place for us to go and get the results if Carl will give them to us about your first question that you had for the folks
Good.
and see what they answer. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and go over to the polls tab. And in the polls tab, Carl has given us the results. I'll read them off to you and to the audience.
Okay.
So the question was, in the last 90 days, how many recruiters and hiring managers have reached out to you through LinkedIn? Of those that we have on here today, 48%, almost 50% say none, nada, zero.
Mm.
Almost 50, the whole rest of them fall in the 1 to 5 range. We've got 0 and 6 to 15 and 0 from 16 up. So half of our audience has not gotten one call from a hiring manager or a recruiter, and the other half of our audience has only gotten between 1 to 5 calls, at most 5 calls from these kinds of folks. So I
Yep.
wanted to give you that information as you go into your second part of your presentation.
And Peggy, doesn't this support the reason that we decided to do this webinar?
Well, it does. And Teddy, one of the things you said that just really rang with me, because I had a coaching client yesterday who's like, hey, why am I not getting any traction on LinkedIn? And because I'd talked to him before and I knew this was an issue, I said, do you have that picture up yet?
Mm-hmm.
Guess what the answer was?
I absolutely can see that being a no.
It was a no. And this guy, he has a beautiful background. But see, without the picture, people don't really know if it's him. They don't trust him. There's a lack of trust that you have when you don't have pictures. It just doesn't work. And so it can be any one of these tips that you've given them that can be the deal breaker for them. And that's why this is a perfectly timed presentation. So I did want to just tell you that. So we've got the results. 50% haven't heard anything. The other 50% less than 5 calls. So that's
and these numbers are, by the way, all of you who responded to this poll, you are not unique. This is not unusual. This is why we do what we do. It's why we are doing this webinar. And it's also why at the end of the webinar I have an offer to help you, because I get probably 25 views a day. But that's because I'm deliberate about my activity on LinkedIn. I'm deliberate about the presentation. I'm deliberate about the way I connect. And I'm deliberate about the way I engage. And it's those views of my profile that create opportunities for me. And for each of you, the more you can get your profile viewed, the more opportunities you're going to find for career opportunities, for business opportunities, whatever your goals are. But if you're not seen, if you're not discovered, you might as well stop doing it. And so we want to coach you on these tips and the steps that we just talked about. And furthermore, the offer we have at the end will even take it to a whole nother level. So let's talk about these 7 tips. These are fairly quick paced, but let's talk about them, and because they're very important for you as well. Well, number 1, I almost don't care what industry you're in, what kind of job you're looking for. I've been coaching people who have been everything from a forklift driver who got a job at a warehouse because their profile got viewed, all the way up to Mr. CEO. Anybody in business, anybody who wants to work in business should have a LinkedIn profile that clearly says, this is who I am. So no ifs, ands, or buts. If you got somebody who tells you it's not worth it, tell them to call me, because I want to find out why they think that's wrong. Second tip is this is not your resume. Now, there's very clearly it needs to be relevant to your resume. It can't be contradictory to your resume, and vice versa. But it's not your resume. So this is not where you list every job title. This is not where you list your what I refer to as PAR statements, your projects, your actions, your results. It's where you tell your story about who you are today. What do you do? What are your skills and experiences? What are your talents? What's your passion? And what do you enjoy doing relevant to your goal? Your resume is your story from the past. Your LinkedIn profile is your public billboard that clearly says, this is who I am. Coca-Cola does not advertise old Cokes. Starbucks does not advertise products they no longer sell. Everything you see online is all about what's available today and who you are today. So your number 2 tip is this is not your resume, it's your public profile. Make it speak well about who you are. This is a task. You have a job. Your job is to find a job. Your job is to start a business. Your job is to do whatever your goals are to move you forward. And building a LinkedIn profile is part of your job. So you're going to have to invest time. You're going to have to work at it. And by the way, you don't need to do it alone. I can help you. That's what I do for a living. And I'd be more than glad to talk with you, and we'll share this with you at the end of the conversation about how we can help you do this work. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes a little bit of thinking, a little bit of writing, but I promise you, if you invest the time building a profile, you will get out of this nobody viewed my profile, and you'll get out of this 1 to 5 people viewed my profile, and you'll get to the point where your profile is being viewed on a regular basis. But it takes work. That's the number 3, irrelevant. This is what I'm trying to explain to you here is do not waste space on your public billboard talking about anything that's irrelevant to who you are and what you're all about today. Relevance is probably the most important word in social media, including your LinkedIn profile. Relevant content on your profile, relevant connections, and relevant conversations. It's the most important thing you can think about when you're doing this. If you're all about being a business analyst, or let's take another example. If you're all about being a SQL database professional, then you're not going to start talking about pruning trees. You have to make the conversation, make the presentation of who you are relevant. Give you another example. Long time ago in my past, I had a really, really cool job that I loved doing. I used to pick up trash in the morning and deliver caskets just in time in the afternoon. And I always thought that was a cool thing to have on my resume because it is pretty weird, but it was a really cool job. Picked up trash in the morning, delivered caskets just in time in the afternoon. Well, I used to have that on my resume, and then I used to have it on my LinkedIn profile until I started learning about this concept of relevance. I said, exactly how is that relevant? Even if it's a cool story, it does not help a recruiter make a decision to hire me. Peggy, have you ever had a job like that?
Well, I can't. I've been lucky enough. All my jobs have been relevant, Teddy. But I will tell you that what you're talking about is very specific, and it's important because some of these folks do have jobs and things on their resume and on their LinkedIn profile that are not relevant, and they don't support them for the role that they want, and so therefore they're a distraction. And that's what you're saying is basically, look, if what you want to be as a finance guy, don't take off and talk about how you used to sell in college. That's not going to sell you as a finance guy.
Absolutely.
So you've got to keep the relevance to what it is that you're looking to achieve and don't ever stray.
Absolutely. And in the coaching that I do, I can help a career transition folk or anybody who are using LinkedIn. I can help them use those job positions from the past and find the stuff that is relevant to who they are and what they're all about today. Because more often than not, you did something in those previous jobs that either developed you professionally or led you to this goal and gave you skills. And so that's the magic to figure that out. So it's all about relevance. Number 4. Get rid of all the fluffy words, all the fluffy adjectives, and exceptional and significantly, and be real. Be real about your words. Write a true story. Don't try to write this grandiose story. Write a real story. When you tell your story with real words, deliberate words, recruiters look at that and they don't have to go through and figure out what are you saying with all those fluffy words, all those adjectives and pronouns, et cetera, et cetera. Tell your story straight up, straight English, and it makes it far easier for recruiters to figure out who you are. And then they don't also do this. They wonder, when you use all those extra adjectives, they wonder how much are you exaggerating. So I encourage you to be different than everybody else and get rid of all those words and just be black and white. Makes it easier for recruiters to make a decision. So Again, back to your skill words, which is also your keywords, even though your keywords can be more than what as LinkedIn has. But you have the ability to add 50 skill words. Find them. Search hard. Spend energy. And one way to figure out what the skill words and phrases are, and excuse me, the skill words and keywords are, is look at the look at the job descriptions that you really, really want to have. That's my job. It's all about me. And look and see what words they're using there. And if those words that are in those job descriptions are relevant to who you are and what you're all about, they can become your keywords. And they could also become your LinkedIn skill words. So go look on your skill words and see if they exist, or see if words relevant to those exist, and use them. Use all those keywords to your advantage. So another tip beyond building your LinkedIn profile, which is another area that I coach people on, and that's how to connect. Often I hear this: I only want to connect with people who can hire me, or I only want to connect with HR professionals, or I don't know who to connect with at all. And so you do one of two things. One of three things happens. People either connect with only those who can hire them, or they don't connect with anybody because they don't know what to do. Or the third thing, which is probably the worst thing, is they connect with everybody regardless of the relevance. What I want to encourage you to do in this step here is think this way. Connect far and wide and diverse. Far, wide, and diverse. But think about who you're connecting with, and who are they connected to, and what do they do? What are their jobs? What's the businesses they work in? And also think about this. Can I have a conversation with that person? Because when you connect with somebody who is doing something similar to what you want to do, or doing something in some area that you're interested in, please do not just connect. In the coaching I do, I will teach you how to engage in a conversation with that person. And that's where connecting far, wide, and diverse can create significant value for you. So tip number 7. So tip number 7 is really what happens on LinkedIn is often I'll see this. They'll build a profile and they'll uncheck that box and say only my connections can see this. Or they'll build a profile and they'll hide stuff on their profile. What I encourage you to do when you build a profile and when you get active on LinkedIn, what I want to encourage you to do is make it 100% public beyond your connections. It's one thing for your connections to see your content. It's far more beneficial and useful when the entire LinkedIn network, 315 million some odd people, can see your profile. So make everything you do on LinkedIn public. It makes it easier for you to be found and discovered. So everything you do must be public.
Amen.
So Peggy, lots of tips, lots of steps. Can you see how this would help the
A lot of great information here, right?
And this is just scratching the surface. It really is.
That's right. And I know that you have some additional training to offer them, but we wanted to go to the poll question. Jody, if you could go through to the poll question slide, and Carl, if you could put the poll up for us. And I'll just ask everybody to go to the polls tab. And what I want to know today is, based on what you've heard here from today from Teddy, would you like more personal coaching on these areas and even more? And you can say, yes, I would, or no, I would not, and click the vote button. Again, it's anonymous, and I'll give you the results in just a little bit. We want to go ahead and go to the live Q&A, Teddy, if we have some questions.
Yep.
Wanted to go ahead and see if we have some questions. Guys, opening it up, you can ask questions in the chat bar. Just type it in there. If you want us to use your name, you can type in your name. If you don't, that's okay too. But we're going to, while we've got Teddy on the phone, we want to ask you a few questions, see if we can help you out with whatever you've got going on. But I do want to speak to a couple things that you brought up. I didn't want to interrupt you in your presentation. It was very good. It was very relevant. You're spot on the photo. Oh my gosh, that's big. Anybody who's on here, if you don't have a photo, your profile's not working for you. You're spot on the relevance part, the keyword part. And the part that's really astonishing is that being 100% viewable. People will
Mhm.
set their profile so not everybody can see it, which is crazy. You want everybody to be able to see you. And it doesn't mean that you're looking for a job just because you are making that available. It just means that you're out there on a social network that's meant and made for business. You can get, even if you weren't looking for a job, let's say that you're still currently employed, you could end up finding a customer, a client, a vendor. There's all kinds of connections that can be made, right?
Absolutely. And Peggy, I'm not looking for a job because I have a business, but I
Right.
use
You're using it
LinkedIn.
to get business.
I use it for four things. I use it in life, career, business, and community. And I can speak, and I hate using the word case studies, but I can tell you example after example where in all four areas, life, career, business, and community, LinkedIn has been beneficial to me.
So
And
we've got some questions coming in now, Teddy. Are you ready? Get on your running gear. You ready?
all right, let me get my hat
So
on now.
here's the first one for you. Can you give us some examples of effective headlines? Stokes Adams wants to know this.
I can. And so what I'm going to suggest you do is you start with your keywords. In my coaching, an effective headline starts with the most deliberate keyword or skill word that represents who you are. And when you have a chance, go look at my LinkedIn profile because I start with LinkedIn trainer because that's who I am and what I do. Now I use other phrases, other terms that are relevant to that: social media coach, social media consultant, public speaker, but that's who I am and what I do. I don't use the phrase business consultant. And right here on my little name tag, it says networking strategist. I'm not a the world does not know what that is, but they do know what a LinkedIn trainer is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I also would encourage you look at other people that you trust and respect and you think are smart people, and look and see what they use.
Yeah, the thing that I notice here on the headline piece is people will want to put something in like, you know, aggressive rainmaker,
Hmm.
which to them they think that they know exactly what that communicates. But it's not as specific and it doesn't have the keywords, and I doubt that anybody's really looking up rainmakers unless of course they really are looking for someone who can make rain, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's the
what they're
magic.
really going to look for, if you're looking for a rainmaker, you're usually looking for an extremely good business development or salesperson.
Absolutely. Use
So
the
would
words.
and if you have an industry piece like medical, wouldn't you be better served to have medical sales or proven medical sales representative there? Because then you're going to get you're going to get the keywords. It's going to be
Hmm.
exactly what they should be looking for. It's a selling statement. Do you think that works?
Absolutely. It has to be the words that you know recruiters are searching for, and it takes time to figure out. Here's the one thing people often ask me this: well, how do I find out what those words are? Ask your recruiter. Call some of your people you've talked with and ask them that question. Would you mind telling me what are the kinds of keywords that you use to search on LinkedIn to find people like me? And if you've got a relationship with your recruiter, which is important, then they'll be very open to be able to share that information with you.
Perfect. Good deal. Here, you ready for your next one?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Nancy wants to know, how can I contact someone mentioned in the job posting who is on LinkedIn, but I can't find a connection?
Oh, so that's a little bit beyond presenting yourself on LinkedIn. It's a class that I deliver about how to connect and how to get introduced without using LinkedIn introductions. I hate LinkedIn introductions. But the answer is not easy and it takes time. But you've got to do research. You got to find somebody who knows that company. Find somebody who knows somebody in that company. And once you make a connection with somebody who may know somebody, then start, and this is hard, start a conversation. Introduce yourself. And once you get introduced to somebody who's willing to say hi to you and know that you're a polite and respectful LinkedIn member, then you can ask that person at some point, could you please introduce me to Teddy Burriss, who works at recruiting company ABC? And I will coach you in my coaching not to use LinkedIn introduction to do that. It's too sterile.
Okay, here's another one. Arlene wants to know, doesn't leaving out some of the previous jobs that you work for that may not be relevant look like you have a lot of blanks?
No, and good point, Arlene. I would not leave out any job. I would not leave any holes. But what I would do is only speak to the stuff that is relevant in that other job to what you do today. And it takes time to figure that out. And if you had a job that is totally irrelevant, but you have it listed there because you don't want to show a gap, then you have to speak to something that you enjoyed doing there. But minimize all the other stuff and just speak to what you did. Again, if you look at my profile, you'll see some ideas. But again, it's the kind of coaching that I'll take you through, how to write a minimized job description for a job that's irrelevant, or how to discover what you did that is relevant that you never even thought about.
Okay, so here's another good question. So Glenn says, I've got previous 13-year position that isn't relevant. Do I leave it out? But you sort of answered this. You said don't leave it out. Just don't spend as much time or space on it.
Absolutely. And yeah, Glenn, if you had 13 years working for another company, I would tell you to think broad and deep and think past titles and think about what you did at that job that may have some relevance. And I would wager, more often than not, 13 years, you didn't switch gears significantly and all of a sudden become something totally irrelevant to 13 years of work. You're just changing. Bet you did something. And again, that's the kind of coaching I take you through.
Okay. Nancy's got a question. She says, I am doing some part-time things, soft skills that could transfer. The problem is that my most relevant prior experience job, I got laid off. So these are other home-based businesses at the top of my experience. How do I fit this in?
Okay, great question. So A, you don't need to talk about you got laid off. You just say you're no longer there. But then when you speak about the home-based businesses, now this is a broad statement. It doesn't cover everybody. So Nancy, I just want you to think through how I'm saying this to you, and because you may want to say, if it was a home-based business, maybe you were working for Nancy Business Incorporated or Nancy's whatever. Think about writing some type of position, and then speak about at that position for those home-based jobs. What did you do working for Nancy's business that's relevant to what you do today? Or show growth and development. So there's ways of doing that. It takes a little bit of time to think through it, but I would put Nancy's businesses on there, but probably lump them in one area.
Perfect. So Teddy, let's stop right here because we've got some more questions, and I'm going to come back and ask you those too because we still have a little bit of time. But I want to go get the poll answer from Carl, if he could give it to us and let us know what the folks said about whether or not, based on what they'd heard today, how many of them would like personal coaching on these areas and even more. We've got the answer there. A straight 50% are saying yes, I would, and 50% are saying no, I do not need it. So let's go ahead and tell them about the additional training that you have. Charity, if you can bring up his slide, and Carl, if you'll put it in the pop-ins for him, and why don't you go ahead and speak to what you have for him here today, Teddy.
So, good, Peggy. And I've created a program, and I've been doing this for about 5 years, and I've gotten very deliberate about using LinkedIn and building profiles that get seen and create opportunities for conversation. Now, because of my business model, I'm very passionate about helping my unemployed friends, my career transition folks. So I do this 50% of my time. I help my unemployed friends find jobs. And because I do this to give back and help, I've decided to make my professional LinkedIn profile coaching available to all of the attendees online here. It's normally I charge $150 a session for these sessions. But because I give away 50% of my time, I decided, you know what, I'm going to cut this rate and I'm going to make it $75. And it's a very deliberate activity. It takes about an hour of WebEx time or Skype time, and I will walk through every section. And
so they could actually be in their LinkedIn profile, right? And you
Absolutely.
could walk them through it so that they could ask you questions, and so this is going to push them through getting it effectively up much, much faster than they could ever do on their own.
Absolutely. I will walk you through every section, explain to you what you should do, and then I will get to know who you are, and I will help speak to the content, speak to the keywords that you're using to build your profile, and it will be far better than if you go off in a corner and you start scribbling stuff down and you cut and paste in your LinkedIn profile. I'll
Okay.
help you tie it all together.
Well, and this is going to help, like, be concentrated, focused, not be in there and then have a question. They can be right there with you. They're going to get farther with this than they're going to be hours on their time on their own, right?
Absolutely. And Peggy, I've got some other magic with that too.
Okay, tell
What
us.
every person that I coach, whether it's on how to present themselves, how to connect, or how to engage on LinkedIn, there's an ebook associated with every one of them. So every session you get an ebook that includes all the basic steps that we talk about. And then here's the other thing. Every person that I coach on this program, when they're done with their profile, I encourage you to send me a LinkedIn message and say, Teddy, I built my profile. Please look at it and give me another opinion. So I don't send you away without giving you an opportunity for me
For
to
some
look
more
at it and
feedback.
send you an email.
Perfect, perfect. So to be clear, the way that they take advantage of this, let's see, we don't have the link in chat. Zanetta, would you go ahead and pull the link for him and put it into chat? And it's in the pop-ins tab right now. And
Mm-hmm.
they'll just click the add to cart button, and you've got their all the information that they need to fill out right there, and then you'll be back in touch with them. How quickly will you get in touch with them and set this time up?
I get back in touch with them within a day.
Okay.
But I would encourage anybody who's interested in doing this, you need to move on this now because my offer for this is through this weekend because I've got so much other work, but I really care and I really want to help. So please don't drag your feet because I've got about a whole bunch of other conversations going on, and I know that later on this month and next month I'm going to get very busy, and I want to be able to help you now. So don't dawdle.
It's very, very important. LinkedIn is by far the most important professional network online. So we've told them how they can get that additional training. That should be in chat. I'm looking. There it is. I also see it in the pop-ins tab. Let's go ahead, and I see that we have at least 3 more questions. Let's handle those, and then we'll wrap up
Sure.
with the time that we have left. So let me ask you this. I've got a gentleman here who says, hey, so I'm thinking he's worried about ageism. Here's the question. I am a senior who functions at a 45-year level. How do I communicate this to an employer?
I am a senior who functions at a 45. So this gentleman is saying, I guess
He's
gentleman,
probably 55, 60, but he's
he's
running at a level
agile
of a 45-year-old, and he wants to know if there's a way he can communicate that in this profile, I'm guessing.
absolutely. There's a couple ways you can do it in your profile. The first way is to get good recommendations. Get people to write recommendations for you, the people you've worked with or worked for. And then here's the magic about recommendations. Do not just ask for a recommendation. Ask for a specific recommendation.
Oh, one that speaks to his energy.
Absolutely. This man's all about it. He does whatever the words are you want that person to say. Ask them politely. Will you write this
Will you
recommendation?
speak to this?
Absolutely.
Some people even let you write the recommendation for them if you have a tight enough relationship, right?
Absolutely. It's all about your
The other
relationship.
thing, couldn't you also, like, if, I'm always stunned, there's a lot of folks who are marathon runners or, runners, judo, whatever, which makes you know that if they're doing that, they've got energy, right?
Absolutely. So
Isn't there a place maybe you could put that in there?
in your interest area, right in there that you're a runner, you're a jogger, you're whatever the words are that shows, and I'm using this word humorously, that you have some virality.
Virality.
As I sit back down on my chair.
That's quite the word. You almost threw yourself out of your chair with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you another question. I'm not sure that this is a softball, but here's what Barbara wants to know. Can I use a conversational style to present myself?
Well, I don't know. Maybe Barbara. Not real sure what that conversational style means. What do you think it means, Peggy? I haven't got that in my head.
I'm thinking she's wanting to kind of write a letter where it says, "Hey, you ought to contact me about this or that. I really want to do this." Maybe she's going to be more informal, is what she's thinking there.
Maybe, and I'm good with informal. I want to write a profile that's interesting to read, and I'm all about first person. My opinion. What's your opinion on that,
Oh,
Peggy?
same with me. I can't stand it when they say,
Hey.
Teddy is. I'm like, hey, Teddy needs to write his own stuff. But hey, Stokes Adams has a question. He wants to know, is the special offer for one session only? So maybe you need to talk a little bit more about what that session involves and what they get.
This is focused to one session, but I'm all about helping people. So if I get somebody to do a session on presenting, I'm all about talking about should we use this same rate for connect and engage. So I'm Stokes. Let's talk about that once we get started. And again, I'm all about helping out, buddy.
Well, and once you've spent one session with him, maybe you'll know kind of what, and when I say you, I'm speaking to Stokes,
Mhm.
maybe you'll know exactly what you need or don't need from him, and you can ask him at that point how others have worked with him, right?
Yeah, Stokes, hold me to this. Teddy, help me out, and we'll talk about how to do that.
That's right. Now, I don't see any other questions. I think we must have answered everyone's question. So I tell you
Let
what,
me, let me go back to
we'll do.
Barbara's question real quick, Peggy.
What did
Because
you say?
let me go back to Barbara's question
Okay.
because there's something else that Barbara could do, and that is on your LinkedIn profile in the section about advice for contacting Barbara. There's a section down there. Then you can say, hey, I really want to talk with you about this. If you're looking for somebody with these skills, this talent, this experience, and this passion, then reach out to me. So you can have a conversation in that advice for contacting Barbara box.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, then let's talk again about the special, and unless we get another question that we need to handle, we'll just go ahead and wrap up here. So remember, again, Teddy's offering you a one-on-one LinkedIn profile coaching session. Typically, he charges $150 for that. For those of you who are on the webinar, it's for $75, but only throughout the weekend. It is a PayPal link, which is very, very safe for your payment. And if you need additional time with Teddy, you can obviously say, hey, like you said, you need to say, hey, Teddy, help me out. It's kind of like, Genie, give me a
Mm-hmm.
wish, right?
Right.
And he's going to be able to help you out on presenting yourself effectively on LinkedIn. He's going to give you the ebooks that are going to give you that information when you do leave that session, and he's also willing for you to send him an invitation and have him critique that LinkedIn profile for you one more time to make sure that it's being effective for you. This could be a very, very good investment for your professional career because, like what Teddy said, this doesn't just get you a job. See, it has the ability to get you a job, help you do that job better, get you another job, help you in your personal life. There's a lot of value to representing yourself professionally and positively on LinkedIn. So I'm looking over to go back to the chat to see if there's some questions that I've missed. I don't see them though, Teddy. I think we must have handled them all. So I think at this point we'll just go ahead and wrap up unless you have some final words you want to share with the audience.
Peggy, I appreciate the opportunity to share and get people excited about thinking about doing something different. So again, I'm all about connecting and helping people. Let's talk about how we can present yourself effectively on LinkedIn. I'll help you with that and help anybody in any other way I can. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, you are most welcome. Now, we've got the links here. We can't really see the one link, but you should know that you can follow him on Twitter at TLBurriss. You could also follow his business on LinkedIn through Burris Consulting on LinkedIn, and obviously he's on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much, Teddy, for your time and insight here. I know that it was helpful for those folks that were in the audience. If there's anything at all I can do for you, please let me know. And guys, wish you the very best of luck. Do something to help yourself out with your career today because these kinds of steps are huge. They make a big difference for you in your job search and going forward as well, right?
Yep, have good stuff.
All right, guys. Thanks, Teddy.
All
I'll
right,
talk to you later.
take care.
Bye-bye.